Has there been a game released in the last 20 years that's been more influential than Grand Theft Auto 3? From its establishment of the open-world sandbox fundamentals, to its critical role in reshaping video games into a more attractive medium for mature audiences, GTA 3's shadow still looms large over almost every facet of the art form. If any game deserved a definitive edition that allowed fans to relive that revolution without squinting to ignore ancient graphics, it's this. And yet, series creator Rockstar Games has decided to pay tribute to this modern gaming monolith and its two equally acclaimed PS2-era sequels, Vice City and San Andreas, by producing a collection of re-releases that cuts more corners than a Diablo stallion in a Liberty City street race. At best, this trilogy is ill-conceived and half-finished. At worst, it's straight up broken. If this half-baked definitive edition is anything to go by, I have to wonder if Rockstar reveres its own games as much as the rest of us do. There are some positives, mind you, but almost every welcome addition is implemented at the cost of some sort of buzz-killing compromise. Weapon switching is improved across the board with the ability to bring up a weapon wheel, but auto-targeting feels far snappier in San Andreas than in GTA 3 and Vice City. And while you can circle strafe while locked onto an enemy with a lighter weapon equipped, heavier machine guns and the like still route you to the spot and force you into a manually aimed first-person perspective regardless. The auto-targeting in GTA 3 and Vice City proved to be particularly sluggish whenever I found myself up close and personal with a group of enemies, which was fairly frequent given that enemy AI doesn't use cover and just rushes you more often than not. Similarly, it's nice that you're now able to drop waypoint markers to your destination on a map screen in the pause menu. However, you can't override waypoints that are automatically created during a mission, and the pathfinding can often get so confused that at times it resembles something closer to a hastily scribbled signature than the shortest possible route. A mid-mission checkpointing system has been implemented to good effect in San Andreas, allowing you to restart with all your health and weapons and skip the early setup phase of certain missions. Yet in GTA 3 and Vice City, choosing the option to restart at a checkpoint just boots you back to the very start of the mission, no matter how deep into it you were when you died, which can lead to a fair bit of repetition in some of the more punishing late-game missions. It's odd that one game allows you to literally cut to the chase, while the other two force you to repeatedly bring the car around and warm up the engine first.
I got us some cannons in the trunk. Holy shit, where'd you get all this stuff?
The cartoonish new character designs have certainly been met with some controversy among fans, but while I wouldn't say they look good, I don't have any real issue with them personally. Sure, they all look like a bunch of down-and-out Disney Infinity dolls, but the only time I ever felt really distracted by them was in the occasional cutscene where characters would be holding objects in the empty space where their blocky, fingerless fists used to be.
Okay!
That's largely the problem with the overhauled graphics in the definitive edition. They're like a shiny new sheet of high-resolution stickers that have been slapped haphazardly on top of an aging Lego set. They look cleaner on the surface, but there's no real consistency in how they've been applied, and everything is still pretty chunky underneath. I can only assume that a lot of the work in porting these games to Unreal Engine 4 has been automated, and it shows in a suite of game worlds that are simultaneously sharper than you remember, but also noticeably sloppier in terms of their artistic direction and lacking atmosphere. The new lighting system also brings mixed results. Neon lights really pop and reflections on cars and puddles are appealing, but elsewhere the overly intense shadows would cast characters into darkness no matter how much I played with the brightness and contrast settings. Although squinting to make out detail in dark areas was still less of a strain on my eyes than the truly torturous rain effect, which made me feel like I was being waterboarded with a can of silly string. Meanwhile, an improved draw distance, which was likely intended to make each environment seem bigger, has actually had the opposite effect. This is particularly glaring in San Andreas, where, coupled with the removal of the Los Angeles-inspired smog haze that once concealed the PS2's technical limitations, you can stand out front of a cabin in Flint County and see the San Fierro skyline looming in the very immediate distance. It completely shatters the convincing illusion of scale that the map was previously able to conjure. This improved draw distance may also contribute to this collection's constantly wavering frame rate on PS5, which is prone to frequent stuttering whether you opt for fidelity or performance modes. Why you're forced to even make that choice on a modern console in a handful of games that are each old enough to vote is beyond me. Then there are the bugs, which were waiting to ambush me around every corner like a bunch of game-breaking gangbangers. Hard crashes, frozen cutscenes,
I did your wife!
NPCs getting caught running in circles, get on the bike Mercedes, missions ending before I'd actually completed them, bridges disappearing, invisible obstacles, building exteriors failing to load, pole position asset completed, yeah, only just, whatever is going on here, screaming pedestrians trapped inside trees, teleporting cop cars, and a particularly bizarre texture glitch that has permanently left my CJ to resemble Watchman's Rorschach are just a few examples of the many rough edges I've been exposed to in all 3 games. I also don't remember the vehicles being this fragile. I'm assuming that the developer is frantically preparing bug fixing patches as we speak, but it's a bit like barring the stable door after the horse has bolted. Or indeed, closing the garage door after the car has glitched inside the house and exploded. However, it's a testament to just how brilliant these games remain that I still found myself smiling during my replays in spite of the many issues. There's no doubt that the mission design has aged, particularly in GTA 3, and creaky limitations like the lack of swimming in both it and Vice City can be tough to reconcile with. That is, unless you happen to just magically bounce off the water. But elsewhere, these are video game playgrounds packed with personality and invention, and accompanied by incredible soundtracks, even despite a few notable licensed omissions. I genuinely enjoyed reabsorbing all the hilarious radio commercials and pedestrian banter.
I want to raise a family. That's just it, Tim. They've got your family. No!
And it was also quite fascinating to sit and play through the 3 games back to back and relive the rapid evolution of a series and genre that would soon become all-conquering. GTA 3 establishes the blueprint, Vice City refines it and adds weaponized 80s nostalgia to its arsenal, and San Andreas expands it in every direction and arguably perfects it, at least given the technology available at the time. That's what makes these re-releases such a bitter adrenaline pill to swallow. While these games may have aged too much to be attractive to new players, they are still fun to revisit for existing fans, but this is just far from being the ideal way to experience them. It's akin to Martin Scorsese announcing a new director's cut of Goodfellas, but palming off the actual editing work to McG.
What'd I say about the giant shark?
You're still getting 3 iconic GTA games and they're certainly still playable, but they're not delivered with anywhere near the level of exacting craftsmanship we've grown to expect from Rockstar. There's no question that the 3 games in this GTA trilogy are all-time classics, but they've unfortunately been remastered with a ham hand instead of a love fist. New features are slight and only partially implemented, visuals are mixed, performance is inconsistent at best, some content is missing, and bugs and glitches abound. In its existing state, this collection of 3 classic GTA games is far from being considered definitive. It's defective, disappointing, and surprisingly disrespectful to both the legacy of the games themselves and their many legions of fans. For more IGN reviews, check out our verdicts on Sherlock Holmes Chapter 1 and New World. And for everything else, stick with IGN.
Say goodnight, Mr. Diaz.